Welcome to Business Matters. We thank you for continuing to share with us in the various lessons that we are providing. I'm sure that there are persons who would have sat this year's, that is the Principle of Business 2024 past paper 2, yes, and you are anxious to know how well you perform on that paper. Of course, this video is also for those who are looking forward to sit the Principles of Business CSEC examination in 2025. So come with me as we go through the Principle of Business past paper 2, 2024. So let's look at question 1. Question 1 says, Joanna recently graduated from university with a degree in management studies and wants to operate her own business. She wants to operate her own business. So the first question they have asked is, list 4 management functions that Joanna would be expected to perform in the business. Now, let's see what we could have written. Let's see what we could have been written for that question. All right. So our answer is 1, planning; 2, coordinating; 3, organizing; 4, motivating; 5, controlling; 6, delegating; 7, directing. Now, the question has asked us for 4 management functions. However, we have given you 7, and you could have chosen any 4 of what we have presented, and you would have given the correct response. Question 1b says, state 2 responsibilities that Joanna's business would have to have. Sorry, let me read it again. State 2 responsibilities that Joanna's business would have to each of the following stakeholders. Let's look at the answer. Well, employees. What would be Joanna's responsibility to the employees? Well, Joanna's business is responsible to provide a good working environment for the employees, so they can work in a safe environment and work at their best. So we're proposing that would be an appropriate response. We could have added also that the employees desire job security and to be paid good salaries or wages. Now, responsibility, what is Joanna's responsibility to the customers? Well, the customers are stakeholders who expect the business to always supply them with high quality goods and services. So it would be the responsibility of Joanna to ensure that her business is producing goods and services that are of high quality. Yes? So the customers would be satisfied. We could also state that they wish, right, to offer goods and services that are affordable. So one of the responsibility here would be to offer goods and services that are at affordable price, so the customers can attain or can purchase. The third group of persons of interest here would be the government. All right, so they say our response to that is, the business is expected to pay over its fair share of taxes to the government, right? So that's a responsibility that Joanna's business would have to the government, to pay over their fair share of taxes to the government and remain compliant with the laws and regulations affecting its operation. We could also have stated that the business should ensure ethical and responsible business practices. We could also say And so we are stating here a number of options that could be written to respond to that area. They are to operate so the business, Joanna's business, has a particular responsibility to operate in an environmentally friendly atmosphere, reducing pollution. So let's move to the next segment of question 1, that is section C, that says state four outlines other than effective communication. Yes? Guidelines, beg your pardon. State 4 guidelines other than effective communication that Joanna should follow in order to establish and maintain good management and staff relations. What should she do? Well, here let us start looking at the 4 guidelines. 1, we could write improving working conditions. So one of the guidelines, apart from effective communication, Joanna could give attention to improving working conditions. That is, they are providing a good working environment that will make the workers feel safe and contented. And when persons feel safe and contented, they will operate at their best. Our second guideline that Joanna may want to follow is she should give attention to keeping the workers motivated. This may be through incentive programs and encouraging activities, yes, that validates their high performance. And our third guideline that should be followed is that she should provide opportunities for training and staff development. Now that will improve the skills and the abilities of the workers. Number 4, we think as well that Joanna should pay attention to practicing good leadership. Yes, this will encourage the workers to trust the leader and to be more committed to the job. We have given a 5th option, and that is Joanna should pay attention to provide avenues for staff welfare. Human beings are holistic, so they are not just workers, they are human beings and have other needs. So Joanna could provide avenues for staff welfare, showing that she cares, yes, for her workers. Let's go to section D of question 1. Explain two strategies for effective communication that Joanna should utilize in the management of the business. Let's go again. What is the question asking us? We're going to explain 2 strategies for effective communication. Now that is an important part of the question. There, we have to pay attention to that segment. What they're asking us about, 2 strategies, yes, for effective communication. Let's see the response. 1, now Joanna should ensure she clearly define the business objectives, yes, and operational goals. Why? Because people tend to buy in to something when it is clearly understood. In other words, once everybody have a clear understanding of the operational goals, it is more likely that they would buy in, give their commitment, and will perform well. The second response is that they seek always. So she should seek always to take into account the workers' needs, attitude, and knowledge when communicating with them. So don't communicate and speak above the workers, but rather understand the background, the nature, the thinking, the social relations of the individuals, of the workers, and then you are best able to communicate to them well. Number 3, we're saying choose the best medium for communication. This will increase the opportunity for the message to reach the receiver as intended. So Joanna now should decide rather that a particular medium should know the particular medium that will best communicate the information to our members or to our workers so that they will understand. So if the workers are, let us say, young and high-tech, then you may not want to use older fashion of medium such as like letters and memos, but rather you will use information that will transmit via the internet. Yes, so you may use emails, or they may want to use WhatsApp messages, because the kind of workers that she has are more high-tech. So it is important then that to choose the best medium for communication. Yes, and this will increase the opportunity for the message to reach the receiver intended. We're now at question 2, so we're moving on nicely. Question 2 from the paper, and we're at A. It says, Paul and Josh exchanged the following text. Paul says, I need a DJ for my party on the 15th of August. Are you available? I will pay $6,000. What was Josh's response? Josh says, yes, I am available and would love to do it. Can you increase the payment to $6,500? What is Paul's response? Here's Paul's response now. Glad you are available. We'll get back to you regarding the fee. Now, there was no further communication between Paul and Josh. And on the 15th of August, Josh arrived at the party ready to perform. Josh was furious when Paul informed him that another DJ was hired, and he threatened to sue Paul for breach of contract. This is a very interesting question. All right? Let's see if we can dissect it and give a response based on the questions asked. So, the first question that we're asked, and I must say to you students that whenever you get contract questions, it is always likely they're going to ask you about what is a contract, or what is a simple contract, or what is a specialty contract. But they always want you to be able to can say what you understand a contract to be. So let's look at the answer. A contract is a legally binding agreement with specific terms between two or more parties promising to do something or to refrain from doing something. Very important. There are three very important, I think about 3 or 4 sections to this definition that are critical. Number 1, the first section that must come in the definition is that it is a legally binding agreement. That's the first section to the definition. Secondly, whatever they are going to be agreeing to, there must be some specific things that they are going to agree to. You cannot agree to generalities. There must be some specific things that you're going to agree to. Now, thirdly, a contract cannot be made by one person. It has to be between 2 or more persons. So that is the third element of the definition. And the fourth element now, you are always going to enter into a contract either to do something or to refrain from doing something. Let's move on. Second segment to question 2 says, identify the characteristics of a simple contract highlighted in the case above. Let's go again. What the question is asking us to do, identify the characteristic. You notice I've underlined it. It didn't say characteristics, which is pluralized and more than one. It says, upon looking at the scenario given to us, we should identify the characteristic of a simple contract highlighted in the what now? The case above. So the question is asking us to identify when we assess the scenario given to us, or the case given to us, which characteristic of simple contract is it portraying? Yes, that's what the question is asking. It's very important to understand the question that is asked so you can give the right answer. All right, so let's go. Our answer is an offer. Yes, so the characteristic of a simple contract that is being highlighted in the scenario before us between Paul and Josh we read earlier is an offer, right? We'll talk some more about it. Let's go. The next question that was asked to us is, describe two characteristics of a simple contract. What should we do? Describe two characteristics. Now you realize they have pluralized the word characteristics, which means now they're asking for more than one. Describe two characteristics of a simple contract other than that. Notice the statement other than that, not other than those, but other than that cited above. So they were looking for you to assess the case and identify the characteristic that was playing out in the case. Which one characteristic that was playing out in the case? And as we have put before you, what we saw playing out was the characteristic has to do with an offer. An offer. All right? Now, they're asking us to know in the second segment to determine two other characteristics that characterize any contract. So we must tell now two other characteristics of a contract. Let's do that. So we could see here acceptance. So another characteristic of contract is acceptance. And this is clearly what is acceptance? Acceptance is clearly and expressly agreeing to all the terms and conditions of an offer. I wanted to point that out clearly. The question asks us to describe, two characteristics. So we say what it is, we list the characteristic, and then we are going to say what the characteristic is. So now our first response is that we're writing acceptance. Acceptance is a characteristic of simple contract. What is acceptance? Well, it is really clearly and expressly agreeing to all the terms and conditions of the offer. All right, that is acceptance. In other words, you cannot accept something and introduce any new term or concept to the original offer. Right? Once you're going to accept, it means you are unconditionally accepting everything that was proposed to you. All right, let's go to the next part. We are also seeing that consideration is also an important element in a simple contract, important characteristic in a contract. Now, what is consideration? This is any promise, benefit, price, or something of value that will be conferred on the parties to the contract. So what we're saying here is consideration is that element, yes? Anything of promise or benefit or price or something of value that will be conferred on the parties to the contract. All right, so we'd have answered that question. We're giving a third response. If the question asks for two, we're giving a third option. Legality is also another characteristic of a contract. Legality here means that all contract must conform to the law of the land. All right, and we also, well, you are so fortunate. Yes, four actually. We are giving 4 characteristics. Competency of the parties, and in some textbook it referred to as capacity, right? And that means both parties to the contract must be eligible to enter into a contract, right? They must not be a minor. They must not be drunken or intoxicated, because somebody who is intoxicated do not have the consciousness to enter into a contract. Somebody of unsound mind, what we popularly call somebody who is mad, right? Or an alien person, is not a part of the country or so on, stranger. So let's go to the next segment to the question. It's getting interesting. Section B to the question says, state whether Josh is likely to succeed if he takes legal action against Paul. Now, while you're watching this, you could pause and go back to the statement, to the case, and read it again before you respond, right? State whether Josh is likely to succeed if he takes legal action against Paul. All right, let's see if we can jump. Be patient with me. I'm going to go right back up and see if we can find the case. All right, here's the case before us. So what is it here now? Paul says he needs a DJ for his party from the 15th of March, of August rather. And he's prepared to pay $6,000 for the DJ. Josh responded that yes, he's available for it and would love to do it, but here's the important part. He says, can you increase the payment to what now? $6,500. That is very important. All right. Then Paul's response was, I am glad you are available. Yes. But I will get back to you regarding the fee. You notice what he's saying? He's not agreeing to the fee that was proposed by Josh. He says, I have some concerns about that, but I'll get back to you. There was no further communication between Paul and Josh. And on the 15th of August, Josh arrived at the party ready to perform. Josh was furious when Paul informed him that another DJ was hired, and he threatened to sue Paul for breach of contract. Now let's go back to our question. Patient with me. Let's go back to the question where we are. Okay, right there. So the question was, state whether Josh, yes, is likely to do what now? To succeed if he takes legal action against Paul. What say you? Do you think that Josh would have any serious grounds to take Paul to court and win him at this case? Let's look into it. All right. So my proposal here is Josh, and emphatically no. Yes, Josh could not win the case, take Paul to the court and win the case for breach of a contract. Notice what he wanted to take in the case to do, a breach of contract. Very important point, you know. Go back to the question again if you wish and look at it. It says he wishes to take Paul to court, yes, to sue him for breach of contract. Now, we are proposing that Josh could not win a case if he takes Paul to court and take legal actions against him. Now, the last part of the question says we must provide an explanation to support your answer. So we are saying emphatically, there's no way he could win, right? So let's give the reasoning now. Josh responded to Paul, right? Josh's response to Paul was a counter offer, right? So when Paul says, I'm looking for a DJ and I'm willing to pay $6,000, Paul was doing what now? Making an offer. When Josh responded, Josh did not accept clearly and expressly all the terms and conditions of Paul's offer. What Josh did was to introduce a new term and condition, right, to the first offer, right? And whenever there is an introduction of any new term to the offer, then the first offer is terminated, and that offer becomes what is called a counter offer. So Josh response to Paul was a what? Counter offer. And a counter offer closes the first offer and creates a new offer. This is something, students, you need to remember. Once any new term has been introduced by the offeree, yes, then what happens is that the first offer is closed and the second offer now becomes a counter offer, right? And therefore, you cannot have in a discussion two offers standing. One has to be closed for the other to stand. So a counter offer is where the first offer closes and you create a new offer. So the activities does not rise. So the activities that took place does not rise to another agreement, to an agreement rather, more so to the level of a contract, because you have an agreement when you have offer and acceptance. Yes, when these are two things, when these two things are present, offer and acceptance, you have what is known as an agreement. So, and there was no agreement that was established in the case, right? There was an offer that was made by Paul, and Josh, by introducing a new consideration figure of $6,500, would now create what is called a counter offer. Now, Paul's response to Josh's counter offer does not indicate an acceptance. Remember what we said now? An acceptance is where, this is very, very important in law. Acceptance is where you are accepting everything that has been put to you. Once you introduce any new term or conditions to that offer that was made to you, you no longer are treading on the course of acceptance. What you are doing is entering what? Into a counter offer. So Paul's response to Josh, counter offer, does not indicate an acceptance. So saying that he will get back to Josh on the matter of the price cannot be taken as a clear and expressed willingness to accept it, but rather it shows a level of what? Uncertainty, yes, and what? Indecision. And therefore, that is our declaration on the case. Let's go to the third part of the question. List 3 characteristics of a specialty contract. Now, this is something that you have to remember. In the textbook, it is always said 3, and they are very simple characteristics. What makes a contract a specialty contract from a simple contract? And here it is. The specialty contract must be what? Signed, right? In the case of a simple contract can be entered into via the means of oral expression, right? Once you have a third party present, you can enter into a simple contract simply by verbalizing it or oral speaking to somebody. All you have to have is a third party as a witness, right? But with a specialty contract, yes, it must be signed, means all the parties must sign the contract. 2, the specialty contract must be sealed. That means there must be a stamp that is placed on the contract that shows it is sealed, or it approves the action that is taken by the party. It seals the action that is taken by the party. The third one is that the contract must be delivered. What this means is that the parties, yes, must have a copy of the contract. Each party must have evidence of this contract that they are entering. And I'm giving you a fourth one. The specialty contract This is very important. It must be written. So it can't be oral, right? A specialty contract, it cannot be done orally. It has to be written. So I've presented 4 characteristics, though we have been told, all right, there should be 3. So you could choose the first 3 and you're good to go. Last part of question 2 says, explain with the use of suitable examples 2 ways which a contract can be terminated or discharged. So that word should be or discharged. All right. So let's go now. Our first answer, if we're saying that one way a contract can be terminated or discharged would be by performance. And this is where both parties have performed their part of the contract. So for example, John hires Mark to cut his lawn for $4,000, right? Mark, yes, he went to John's home, and that again, that's a type of error. It should be W-E-N-T. He went to John's home, cut the lawn, yes, and John then pays him. The contract is now discharged. In other words, John wants his lawn to be cut. Mark cut it and pay him. So both the performance has taken place. The lawn was cut and the money was received. So the contract is finished. Another example would be, you take a taxi to go to X point for a particular price. So once the taxi driver takes you to that location and you pay them, the contract is completed. So by performance, yes? Good. So let's move on to another one. So a contract may be terminated or discharged by performance. What does that mean? This is where one party is found to breach a condition of the contract. So when there's a breach, there may, especially, well, you know, there are several kinds of breach that can take place. But a breach of condition here now will cause the contract to fail, right? So one party has failed to carry out a condition of the contract, and that may refer to as a breach. Okay, so let's move on to the example. So Susan hires Gary, right, a taximan to transport her to a destination for an agreed price or fare of $1,500. So now when Gary, the taxi driver, takes Susan to the destination, Susan is now perhaps proposing to pay $1,000 or refuse to pay the taxi driver. That's a breach, because before Gary would have left the location, they would have agreed at a price of what now? $1,500. So Susan not wanting to pay or not willing to pay or refusing to pay would be a breach of a serious condition of the contract, because, yes, they would have an agreement in the contract for that price. All right. There's a third option we're giving here, and that is by frustration or